who you are when no one is watching is who you really are.
Welcome to the Council of Dudes podcast. I'm your host, Vinny Brusco. I am a father, a husband, the founder of Agora Social Club, a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a certified life coach, and a facilitator of the Council of Dudes men's group. This podcast is here to help you tap into and follow your golden thread, that feeling that pulls you forward to become the best version of yourself. If you're someone who's into personal development and self-help and is looking to live a life of more alignment, then this is the podcast for you. Subscribe to the channel, click the notification button, and follow along on the journey of the show.
How's it going, everyone? This is Seth with Tweeds, and you are checking out the Council of Dudes podcast.
And here we go.
Thank you for allowing me to, film the podcast in this space. As we were just kind of discussing a little bit before, is that this space is an expression of the self, right? When you walk in here, there is this vibe and this energy here that you can't just magically put together, right? It takes a certain amount of effort and energy. And you were telling me about the idea that in most cases in building Tweeds, they do bring out an interior designer, but in this particular case, they weren't able to get someone here in time. So they did give you carte blanche to building the space yourself.
Absolutely. And really what that entailed was like 3 full solid weeks of me. My dad flew up. He lives in Florida. He flew up for a week. And my wife, like being here 15 plus hours a day, like literally like living in this space, eating sunrise pizza next door like every day and building it out. So from the design of the store to a lot of the art on the walls and the choices for everything, like I feel very, very connected to it because we were just, we built it all out.
Did you have a vision in mind? Like you were like, I want it to be this color. Like, how did it kind of come together?
Yeah, so I kind of started with the paint. The only thing I didn't do with my own 2 hands was paint the walls.
Yeah, that makes 2 of us.
Yeah, so that's it. And then the ceiling. We painted the ceiling too.
Yeah.
We brought someone in to paint because that's the one thing, like, I know if I don't get it right, like it's never gonna be right.
Right.
So we hired someone to paint and we picked the colors. We got the green accents and the black, and then from there everything else just kind of fell into place. It was I had an idea in my head of what I wanted. Like I'm very inspired by the cigar bars that were in Tampa. And I wanted to take a piece of that back up home with me. So I had kind of, I guess like a vibe in mind, but nothing like really specific. And I just kind of picked every single piece as intentionally as I could. Like if you go in the bathroom, like the soap dispenser is like a green glass, and the coasters are a green glass coaster, and like every single detail was just like, how does this tiny minute thing play into the symphony of everything else around it?
Yeah, there is an energetic symphony. I love that word in creating and doing. You almost become like a conductor or like a chef in a kitchen where you're orchestrating this whole thing that's coming together in this one presentation when someone walks to that door, and what their experience is from enter to exit, right? And I think that that's something that, again, kind of going back to that point, is an expression of the self. Like even in building the Agora that we're currently in and looking at the 2.0 versions, like the intentionality and the tonality and like the journey of the experience is so important to me as just what I want to bring to the world, but then also from like the consumer standpoint, where you're entering this space, you want to be just like this own vacuum of existence in a way.
Yeah. And I talk about this a little bit. I don't think I put this on another show before, but like one of the things that I did when we were building it out was when I was a kid, my mom taught me how to clean, right? And one of the
that makes 2 of us,
right? One of the things she taught me was like, if you think you're done, go to the front door of the house, open the door, and pretend like you're a guest walking in for the first time and see what you notice. And you're going to notice like you think you're done, but you left this out over here, or this doesn't look right, or the chairs aren't pushed in over here. And I kind of did like the same thing with the store. Like as I was building it out, like I would often walk outside and just kind of put myself in the mind state of somebody who's coming in for the first time, just someone who lives in town, open the front door and just, try to create that experience of walking in for the very first time and what I notice, right?
Yeah.
And so even down to like how the pictures are arranged on the wall, like I wanted it to kind of like be like a staircase that guides your eye down to the end, to the bar and the sign at the end. And like, so the whole thing is really designed that way. Like you walk in and what do you notice? And I quizzed a lot of people, like, what's the first thing that you noticed when you walked in? Like, what was your first impression? And that was a huge part of my like design flow state, was like, how does the eye move through this space when you first walk in, and how does it make you feel like off the rip?
Yeah. And in building Agora, I could resonate with that. And we did a networking event here. You hosted one, and that's what kind of brought this all to fruition, was that we were here. Obviously, you walk in the space and it just has an energy and a vibe to it that's like, yeah, this is a great space. And then I was actually sitting here, we were having some conversation, and then I was like, this would be a great space to do a podcast. And then you and I furthered the conversation, and here we are. So but yeah, man, it's very intentional, and I love that. And as someone who prides himself in the space that I've created, I know when people leave or they walk and they go, man, this place just has an energy to it. And there's a thing called morphic resonance, which is like spaces have energies.
Yeah.
And when you step into it and you align yourself with what you're creating, it's very obvious. And kudos to the space. It's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Now, you mentioned bringing up the energy and the vibe from some of the cigar shops down in Tampa. You're originally down in Tampa?
Yeah, so I'm actually originally from New York. I was born in Poughkeepsie. And like a big part of my story is like I never lived anywhere for more than 2 years. Like I've moved so much in my life. So we bounced all over New York. We bounced all over New Jersey a little bit. And then we ended up moving down to Florida when I was a kid with my parents, and bounced all over Florida, mostly within that like Tampa Bay region, like Sarasota, Bradenton, Tampa. But I think the first place where I really started to find some stability was when Tweeds, became a thing in my life. And so I ran Tampa for 2 years with my really good friend Matt. Him and I were the team Tampa. And
that's a Tweeds location.
Correct.
Yeah.
Still there. Matt still runs it. Shout outs, Matt. But yeah, so that was like, I never really liked Florida. I always wanted to get back, like, for as long as I can remember. Like, I remember when I was a kid and we first moved here, like, I remember we were, there was some excitement in going and exploring all the things that we didn't have, like Siesta Key Beach and stuff like that. But I remember like being like 7 years old, just crying on the playground. And my mom was like, why are you crying? And I just told her, like, I don't have any of my friends here. Like,
No.
I don't know anybody here. And
It's so hot, Mom.
yeah. And like the great irony of it is that I made my best friends of all time in Florida, and and they actually moved up to New York before I did. So then it was like a reunion when I finally came back up. But yeah, so one of the big things that inspired me was the cigar lounges down there, because I didn't get into cigars until I got into suits, and those things just went hand in hand really well. The cigar scene in Tampa, I feel, is very different from like up here in Westchester, where like they have these, very high end, super like luxury spaces and really interesting stuff. Like Tampa is Cigar City. That's what they call it down there. Like,
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Like it is, a lot of people are into it there. It's a really big culture down there. And maybe it's the distance to Cuba that like
yeah, maybe.
but that's like a real culture there, and there's a real culture of the cigar lounge. And there are some amazing places, like there's this place called the Cathedral, right? And the Cathedral is a cigar bar. It's got a full bar, it's got like a giant humidor, and it's built into an old decommissioned church. So it's got that old architecture and like the stained glass windows and all this stuff. There's a beautiful outdoor area. And then you had just your more like high end places that like, they looked like something out of the future. Like you got all the uplighting like built into the trim and all this stuff. And like, you'll spend way more money than you thought you would walking in. But like the good thing about those spaces was every time I went, if I was dressed to the nines and I wore my tape, I made a friend and got a client.
Wow.
Every time, every single time. So I frequented the cigar bars because there's a great place to meet people. And like, I didn't have to be like salesy, right? Like I didn't have to run up to people and actually if you did, you would get kicked out. It was just natural. Like I feel like, and like you could probably resonate with this with Agora. Like there's only a few spaces that like are true third spaces today where like you have this sanctuary where there's an unspoken quality to it that is just like you come here to leave your worries at the door and to commune with other people, you know, whether it's having good conversation with old friends or you're meeting new people. That's a rare and incredibly valuable thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you don't want to taint that either.
No.
Right? By being overtly one way or the other or try to sell something or anything like that. So, you know, it's funny. It is such a fine line there because you do have a business and you do have a family and you do have things that you need to provide. But then there is this other component to it that says like, this is something that's super valuable.
Yeah.
And to tarnish it with this component of, or the approach of sales in a conventional way, you have to kind of adapt, right? And adapt to the energy that's there and be like, all right, this is not about the actual transaction. This is about providing an experience.
100%. And also just making a connection. Like, you know, I feel like it's just different. Like when I go to a business convention, like that's all I'm doing is running around like, and it's a numbers game. How many people can I meet? How many people can I talk to? And how many of them are actually going to be people who want a suit? And we could go on a whole tangent about this, but we would go to like business conventions and turn our hotel room into a suit shop for the week or the weekend or whatever. And like, that's what we did the entire time. Like I would be running around the floor from like, you know, 6:30 in the morning so I could catch the people at the coffee line, and then all the way through to the end of the events, and then, you know, into the after party and the after party, and then crash for 3 hours and get up and do it again and just burn out for the weekend, you know. And it's that fast paced, super salesy, like I'm trying to determine as fast as possible if this person is going to be a buyer or if they're not interested and move on to the next. And that's like, you know, you have to have that experience. That's like being down in the trenches.
100%.
But the cigar lounge is so different, and it's like it's just a place where like you're like I'm never thinking about, I'm never looking around the room like who's going to be my next buyer. Like I walk in, I sit down, you know, there's 3 other guys around me and we can just start having a conversation, and it's, if it naturally comes up and they're interested, we've made an actual connection. And then, you know, that's how you have those clients who like, they connect with you on a deeper level and you end up working together for years and years and years. And, you know, that's how I met one of my best clients who, he's done multiple suits for himself. He's gotten all 3 of his sons suited up with me because we just have that connection and that trust. And like, it's a totally different thing. And I wanted to reflect that kind of experience here.
Yeah, well, you captured it and you absolutely nailed it.
Thank you.
It's interesting in the sense that making that connection with someone and it being not about the actual component of the sale, but yet it kind of still is, and being in that high pace. Did you have a sales background prior to Tweeds at all or no?
Not at all.
Yeah.
No. I was a full like pure designer before I came in. So I was I started working really, really young. I got my first internship when I was 12 years old, and my mindset going into it was I loved movies, I loved cartoons. I wanted to learn how to make movies and cartoons.
Love that. What were your favorite cartoons?
Oh man, we could be here all day.
Let's go.
All right. I loved Avatar: The Last Airbender.
So you're a bit younger than I am.
Yeah.
So you have a different framework of cartoon, but continue.
Yeah. But there were some classics. Like I loved the original X-Men. Oh my gosh, so good.
So good. Do you see X-Men 97?
I have not seen it yet. I'm very excited to watch it.
It's hard. I get it. Yeah.
I've been busy.
But
like once I have a little bit more consistency and I have some time, I'm definitely gonna watch it.
It's like my laundry folding thing. Like when I'm folding laundry in the room, it's like, all right, I'll carve out whatever the episode is. And I didn't even finish it, but it is very good. Continue. So the original X-Men, Airbender.
the Spider-Man animated series, like
Yes.
the early 2000s, 90s one.
Yep.
That one was great. That's still the best one in my opinion.
X-Men's pretty damn good. Batman the animated series. I actually,
Batman the animated series peak. That was like don't even get me started on that.
yeah, so take back your Spider-Man comic because Batman the animated series
I was just saying it's the best Spider-Man cartoon.
Okay, fair,
Yeah.
fair. Batman the animated series is some of, if not the best Batman story lore
100%.
arc. And I actually just went back and revisited it just with my son a little bit, and then I was watching, and then it became again laundry folding, and I'm just slowly watching it, and it just takes me back to being a child in like the best way. And like
Yes.
this is some of, if not the best Batman, and then animation on top of it.
Yes.
It's very similar to the Dark. I use this a lot in the Chosen series or the Dark Knight. They're really good shows or really good movie. It just happens to be about Batman. Like the Chosen's a really good show. It's just about
happens to be
Jesus.
about Jesus, yeah.
Right? Like, and that's kind of a Batman the animated series. Like, this is a really good cartoon, but it just happens to be about Batman, right? It's just an amazing, like the storytelling, the colors, the animation, the hand drawn, it's all just perfect.
Yeah, 100%. And
So you want to get into design and movie and
yeah.
cartoons, and
So that I was really inspired by all that, and also by writing. I've always been a writer.
did you draw?
I tried. So this was my first heartbreak in life was I realized I could not get what was in my head to get onto the page, and it was just infuriating. I've always had like some kind of like muscular deficiency in my
Fine
hand.
motor skills.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
always had it, and like even you're a jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah.
I was really into jiu-jitsu for a while before I got injured. And like one of my first injuries that I got over was that whatever that weakness was in my hand and in my wrist, like from doing jiu-jitsu, I got these giant ganglion cysts. Do you know what these
Wow.
are?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so my like joint fluid was leaking out and making these giant cysts. Like I could bend my wrist like this and you'd see it popping. I'm like this tall. And it was like pressing on my nerves. So I had them both surgically removed. You could still see, like I've got these scars on my hands. Funny story, did it at the same time. So I was wrapped up like a teddy bear for like
Whoa.
weeks.
I never had that. Like there was a stretch for probably like 3 months straight where almost every night in the middle of the night I'd pop my wrists
Yeah.
while I was sleeping.
Oh wow.
And I would be sleeping, I'd just be popping my wrist. And it wasn't like once, like it'd be a stretch of like 2 minutes of back and forth popping. And it popped, and my wife like, do you realize you're popping your wrists while you're sleeping? I was like, I have no idea. And it was like literally like 2 minutes of me just going like this, and it would be pop, 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 pop. It was very weird.
Yeah.
Very weird.
But yeah, so I something about it just doesn't, like I can't get my hand to connect with my brain in that way. And I did everything. Like I was doing this internship. I was working for a really small business, and the owner of the business was Ringling College of Art graduate, which is like one of the best art schools in the state of Florida. And like they have recruiters from like big studios, like the big studios that make shows for Cartoon Network that go down and
that's cool.
recruit there. Like
That's cool.
so for me, like I thought I had this one-way ticket, and like I was calling. I've always had this like very like entrepreneurial mindset where I'm like, I'm just gonna go straight to the top and see what I can hear from these guys. So I eventually,
you.
yeah, I called the one of the people who's like high up at this studio called Frederator, and they're like one of the biggest cartoon studios for cartoon shows.
I didn't even know this, and I'm a big cartoon guy.
Yeah, if you watch, they do a lot of stuff for like Cartoon Network. So if you watch anything on Cartoon Network, if you watch through the credits, there's always going to be the Frederator logo. And
Wow.
so I got in touch with him, and I asked him like, what will it take for me to get from where I am to working at Frederator by the time I graduate school? He laid it all out for me, and I thought I had it made. Like he interviewed me for like 30 minutes. He was like, we'll stay in touch with you while you're in college, and like we'll be waiting for you.
He probably
essentially.
just saw the audacity you had to go in and take that step. Like,
Yeah.
kudos to you for asking for it, right? Like, and that goes back to the sales idea. So you've always been in sales, really, but you were selling yourself. But like, it's the old like closed mouths don't get fed. Like, if you don't
100%.
ask the question, you won't get the answer, good or bad. But there's like this fear component that people tend to stay away from because of rejection, all the other things.
Yeah.
But continue.
Well, and just to add on to that super quick too, like one of the things I learned really, really early on is like, yes, not only like the whole like closed mouths don't get fed, like you have to ask to even get a no, but I always found that people who are successful and have made it, particularly in what you're interested in, if you want to learn from them, they're most of the time they are ecstatic to tell you everything they know. And I don't know if that's a product of people so infrequently asking those questions or what, or who knows,
I
but
think it's kind of a component of seeing yourself in another person,
yeah,
right? The
absolutely.
idea that this other person sees me as achieving the thing and doing the thing, and it's almost my duty to that version of me that
Yeah,
was once in their shoes to pay it forward.
absolutely.
Not everybody has that mindset, but I think
Right.
the healthier, the people have arrived in a healthier way and kind of are more sound and
Secure.
more secure exactly in their role and how they've gotten there, do want to share and do want to open up and do offer resources to, people who are coming up in the system.
Yeah. 100%. So yeah, eventually I learned that like I did all these art classes, all this stuff. I just could not get my hands to do what my brain wanted it to do. So I ended up just naturally drifting more into the business side of what I was doing, and less the like I started thinking a lot less about making cartoons and more about like the work that we were doing, which was like, we were making websites, we were making commercials, and we were making, all kinds of stuff. Like we were just a straight design studio. And um like I ended up staying in that startup world for most of my life up to this point. um you know Startups are always like roller coasters. So like
Yeah.
when it's up and things are going well, like things are great, and then when they go down, like, I do whatever work I could through the summer, because I come from a big family with little money. So I've got 6 siblings, and all living together under one roof. So I felt like once I started making money, like then it was like I need to keep contributing. So if I wasn't doing design for a summer, I was out landscaping or roofing, and those are valuable experiences too. Restaurant work.
Mm-hmm.
My God, you'll never catch me being rude to a a waiter, because like
Yeah.
I've done that kind of work, and it's brutal. But yeah, so I've kind of had my hand in a lot of different pots, and was always like, uh, whenever I was looking for another design job, like if they asked me if I knew how to do like product design, never designed a product before, but I figured I could figure it out, so I just say yes and figure it out on the fly. And that was like my whole life, was just like, say yes and figure it out.
Yeah.
And if there's any skill that I really, really got besides just the design side of things, it was just that ability to teach myself something. And that kind of got me along. And long story short, I bounced around startups for a long time, and then I married my my middle school sweetheart. And
Amazing.
we decided like a year into being married. So I married her at 18. A year later, we decided to have a kid. Far and away the best thing I've ever done in life is that. But when you have a kid coming along, like all of a sudden, like the roller coaster ride of the startup world just becomes like a terrifying reality, where it's like I cannot be in a position where like I'm all of a sudden I don't have work.
Mm-hmm.
So I got my first corporate gig. I was the I put it as I was the propagandist for a realtor association.
Yep, I gotcha.
And this is the kind of place where like most of my coworkers had been there for like 10, 15, 20 years. Like it's stable as can be. That is not moving anywhere. And I would just do like all their social media. I would do videos of the events and whatnot. And then we also had a part of my role that was like, we had a studio, and like one of the member benefits we offered to realtors was they could contract the studio for their own video work, and come in for a really, really basically nothing price, and make videos for their social media and whatnot. So it was a very amazing. It was an amazing gig. Like I will never knock anyone who like loves that and can do it for 20, 30, 40 years and make a career out of it. Me, on the other hand,
Sure.
I was looking at like one of the first tasks I had when I joined was they had this hard drive that was just full of like 20 years of content, and they asked me to organize it, and I was going through all this content, and like I saw videos of like the people that I was working next to but 20 years ago. I was
Wow.
like, it terrified me. I was like, I could not be here for 20 years, like,
Yeah.
and it was crazy
It was
too,
like you
man,
saw your
'cause
future. You're like, whoa, like
yeah,
this is where I'm go. This is the track I'm on, right? This is the
yes,
train I've gotten on. This is the actual track that I'm on. This is where it's leading me. And you get a real insight into their lives, their world, what that
right,
looks like, what that feels like. And to
100%,
have that moment and be like, oh man,
yeah.
I'm on the wrong train.
100%. It was like the only job I've ever had where I had this very distinct feeling where like I was really excited that I got it because it was a corporate job and it kind of gave me this legitimacy to myself where it's like,
Isn't that weird?
yeah, it is weird. Super
It's
weird.
so weird that it takes something that's built in social constructs for us to feel like validated and seen in this way. But yet there's so many people who have become socially successful, whatever that means to you, that are not inside of that construct, if
Right.
not more so.
Yeah, 100%. And so on one hand, like I was validated because I was like, all right, so all these tiny little companies see the value in me, but now I have like a real corporate job that sees the value in me. But the very first day that I joined, I remember they gave me the tour and they showed me my desk. And I've never had this happen before, but this thought hit me like a bullet train. It was like, how many hours am I going to spend burning away at this seat in this corner of the room? And that thought never left me the entire time I was there. And
Did you do the math?
I was there for 2 years. I was there for
Yeah.
2 years. So
Yeah.
I haven't actually done the math on the hours, but
Did you just, it was like prison, you were just scraping away at the wall, just keeping a
yes.
tally,
Yeah.
like day one.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, like it's a great position, and whoever like takes it and really wants to be there and like be in that space for years to come, like they're gonna rock that position.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Um,
There's nothing wrong with it. It's just
no,
that you get to a point where you realize this isn't for me.
yeah,
And that's okay. Like that is an
yeah,
okay thing to. Now, it doesn't mean you have to completely jump off the boat. Like there's so many different ways to go about it, but there's a realization that this isn't for me. And then it may not be for other people, but maybe they're afraid to take that leap. They're afraid to kind of double down themselves and lean into what they
yeah,
actually want to be doing. And there's a great quote that the many men live lives of quiet desperation. I butchered that a little bit, but the massive men live quiet lives of desperation. Either way, it's on the wall in Agora. I could always reference it, but
nice,
it is this idea that people, we live in these quiet moments of like, oh man, like that, right?
yeah,
This realization of like, I'm going to spend 20 years here, countless hours,
mhm,
and for what? Right? And that can motivate you or that can completely deflate you.
yeah,
But what you do with that information is entirely up to you.
100%, yeah. And so for me, it was just like I hit this 2 year mark, right? So my daughter is here. She's in the world. I'm very tenuously able to support us, but like not really because like this is one of those jobs where like you start low and then every year you get your 5% raise until all of a sudden you're making good money like 10, 15 years down the line. And so when I first started, I had to move back in with my parents. So it was me,
Yeah.
my wife, and my newborn daughter. And my parents were gracious enough to open up one of the rooms, kick one of my siblings out and move them into another room with another one of my siblings so that we could all squeeze into this room together. And like that started this like chain of like this chain reaction where like my like all of the like Jenga blocks that make up my mental health and my mind just were starting to be pulled away one by one. It's like first it's your independence, and then it's like your agency, and then it's like um your like picture of what your future is going to look like, and like all
That's a
this.
really beautiful vision and
Yeah,
like a metaphor.
yeah. And as a dad, like I couldn't think about all these things going away. I was focused on my family, but I think what a lot of people are talking about lately is like that when you don't when you're not focusing on that and you're just barreling forward because you're dad and you're a provider, like that's how you get all these stories. Like I heard one last night of a dad who, very macho man, like never let his emotions show, and one day it just became too much, and he ended his life. And like slowly but surely over those 2 years, like my mental health just degraded, and it's a funny story, but it's darkly funny. Like my first day on the job, my manager, who was amazing, just this like incredible person, she gave me a gift, and it was like a little cutting from one of her plants at home, and she put it in a pot and she gave it to me for my desk. And when she first gave it to me when I joined, it was like a leaf sticking out of a cup. And like, I'm 2 years into this job, my mental health is slowly degrading, and one day I just looked at that plant on my desk, and it had grown into this big thing. And I got up, walked out of work, and committed myself to a mental institution.
Did you really?
I straight up did. Yeah.
Wow.
It was just like this, boom, like all of it came back to me. Like that first day when I joined, and like I thought to myself, how long am I going to sit burning away at this desk? All of a sudden, all that time was just laying out in front of me, and I've never even looked at it.
It's not even that. It's like this really paradoxical situation where this plant is thriving and growing, and you're shrinking and dying.
It was feeding off of me.
It was just sucking the life out of you.
Exactly.
So you checked yourself in. Wow. What was that like?
Well, it was wild, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like I was there for like 3 or 4 days. I can't remember exactly, but it's a little bit of a blur because like I first just walked into like the ER, and
you were having like a panic attack, or was anything like
dude,
that?
It was like a full on mental breakdown because like
wow.
I think it was just
It all came at once.
Right.
The Jenga, the last piece came out.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I am this kind of person that like I want to build something, and I want to keep pushing until I can really take something and bring it as far as it could. And that corporate environment was just not conducive to that, like it was very built on stability and, maintaining the system that they've built.
Were they open to you breaking outside of the system, but then still staying within the organization? Because there's a lot of times where maybe there's other avenues within the construct that you can kind of lean into your strengths and what you want to be doing and how you could provide a service to the corporate structure, but still stay within the business.
Yeah. And they were open to it. And that was the really cool thing about them. But it would never have been like what I've been able to achieve so far at Tweeds, and where my mindset goes with Tweeds now, which is like I never would have had my own realtor association where I built out the room to be the sickest thing ever, and like I'm doing all these, like I can hound down all these different ideas and threads. Like it's just different, right?
Yeah, I get it.
You still have to work within what the system needs, right?
Yeah.
So
the Jenga comes down, you check yourself in, and what is that experience like?
Yeah, I mean it was wild. Like I just walked into the hospital, and like really where my mindset was at the time was like I had this lie that I was believing, which was like I have completely failed in life and I'm stuck in this dead end, and my wife and my daughter would be better off with somebody else, someone who can really provide for them. And that's where my mindset was at the time. And I know that's a lie. And I didn't, because, but my wife lost her dad very young from depression. So I didn't want to end up like that. I wanted to make sure that I was someone who would be the opposite of that for her. Someone who's stable, who, no matter what, well, we can face life together. And that was,
you're gonna make me cry right now. I'm like, my eyes are I'm holding back so much right now, and I'm a big crier, and I will self-proclaim I don't care about. I am holding back so many tears right now. That is so beautiful.
Thank you, man.
And I just understand.
I'm a big crier now that I have a kid.
Yeah, no, we could absolutely get some tissues and start crying. But continue.
Yeah, so it was just like all these things kind of came together, and I didn't know exactly where to turn at the time. I was not rooted in my faith at the time either. That's a whole other episode.
Oh,
really.
we'll get there. Don't worry.
Okay, yeah, but like long story short, we can go back and chase down the stuff if you want, but I went to seminary for a period of time. I wanted to become a pastor, and I ended up dropping out of seminary and leaving the faith altogether for a while. So that was another big element to this, was I was in the desert. I had no spiritual foundation, and I didn't know where to turn. And I did not want to be one of those stories where, like, all the stories I heard about, my wife's dad, like I didn't want to be like that. So I knew I needed to be in a place where I could really, hit rock bottom and sit at rock bottom and reassess my life and figure out the path forward. So I walked into Sarasota Memorial Hospital, told them everything that I was going through. They put me in a like paper gown, took all my stuff, put it in a box.
Did you call your wife and say, like, hey, listen, I'm going to do this thing?
Yeah.
Or,
Oh yeah.
What was her reaction?
She was totally wigged, and but she was like, she was really a rock through the whole thing. And I told her kind of what I said to you, was like, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. I need to be in a controlled environment, and that's
I'm
why
so proud of you, dude, for even stepping into that space, because to your point earlier, there are so many men that sit in that world and they struggle every single day. And it just does feel like the walls are closing in on you. And when you get to that point and you get that desperate and you start to have these thoughts of maybe everybody's better off without me, right? That is a very scary place to be and a real feeling. So to kind of recognize that within yourself and then to do the work, and not even in this, oh, I'm doing the work, man, I'm stepping, like my journey is a little bit more of like going into float tanks and meditating and finding God, like, but that was a different kind of work. But to remove yourself and go, I need to be like in this structure, this system that doesn't define who I am as a man, but is going to give me the opportunity to stay safe and allow myself to interact with my thoughts in a healthier way is such an amazing share. And I just thank you for that, man, because I'm very proud of you for stepping into that. It takes a lot of courage to do that.
Thank you. Yeah. And like, to be honest, I did not talk about this publicly for a long time. And I felt that the stigma of it for sure.
Yeah, the shame of it. Yeah.
But I feel like it's important. And like, if more people kind of like, I think if more people realize that there's another option, there's another way out, you can reassess, you can totally start from rock bottom and rebuild. I think, and that was a viable option. I think there'll be a lot less.
Yeah, it doesn't
suicide
define
out
you.
there.
Like, seeing a therapist, having a psychologist, psychiatrist, going to a men's group, sharing your thoughts and feelings, or checking yourself into an actual facility, say, I need help right now. There's no shame about that. Like, we honor so many guys who go through recovery, whether that be drugs, alcohol, whatever it is, who go through AA and they come out on the other side and they have coins and we clap and we celebrate that. And it's an amazing feat of taking control of your life. But when it comes to the mental health component, we stigmatize and go, oh, there's something wrong with me. Oh, there's something wrong with that. Oh, that guy has a therapist. That guy checked himself into a mental institution. He must be crazy, right?
Right.
Where it's like, we all have these moments, like there's those memes, or you see the old say, it's like, we're all one bad sandwich away from a complete mental breakdown. like sometimes that is the case. Like the line between sanity and insane is razor thin. Yeah. And it does just take one removal of that Jenga block and it all comes crumbling down.
Hi everyone, I'm Vinny Brusco, founder and CEO of Agora Social Club. I'm also all of these things. Agora Social Club is Westchester County's hub for guys' mental fitness. Let me show you how we're revolutionizing the future of men's mental health. All accessible via key fob as a member, Agora Social Club seamlessly blends the community, comfortability, and convenience of a coffee shop, community workspace, gym, and recovery center. Since opening in April of 2024, Agora Social Club has helped hundreds of guys become better men. Through our men's groups, dads groups, community ruck walks, and 5Ks, guys are finding a deeper sense of connection through community. But don't just take my word for it. Check out our 5-star Google reviews where guys are sharing their transformative experiences. So what's next? We're looking for an investor to help us build Agora 2.0, a flagship location located right here in Larchmont, offering our members even more space, more amenities, and more community. By the end of 2030, we're targeting multiple locations in 4 major U.S. cities. We're excited to share our vision of the future of men's mental fitness.
Yeah, I have a pretty hilarious bad sandwich story too, so maybe we can get to that.
Circle back to that.
Yeah, don't let me forget about
All right, bad sandwiches. Note.
Yeah.
Make a note. Bad sandwich stories.
But yeah, so it was a pretty wild experience. Like the first night I was actually at Sarasota Memorial Hospital. They had this like crazy room. It was like there's this TV behind glass and then like a little bed, and like the bathroom like door was like made of foam so you couldn't like hang yourself on it. Like it was wild. And then they transferred me to an actual facility the next day, and thankfully I got put in like the good ward. There was like the ward for the people who are, you know, having a drug breakdown, and there's the ward for the people who are, you know, aggressive, and then there was the good ward. So, you know, it was the other people there were, it was very chill, but I think like the real benefit that it gave me was I had 3 days where I wasn't thinking about anything else but how do I rebuild myself from scratch. And you know, that was very, very powerful. And I had some very powerful experiences too that really, I think, helped me to just reaffirm like who I was when all of the career stuff was stripped away, and when all of the like the way that I pretend to be was stripped away. And it's like, you know, there's this that whole idea that like who you are when no one is watching is who you really are. And I had like really 3 days to really examine like who am I when nobody's watching, when there's no career pressure, when like and what does that foundation look like, and how can I make it strong and build it up again. So yeah, I mean it was pretty wild. There was one incident where one of the people that got put in our ward, he got into like a fight, like a full on like jumping and scratching at each other's faces, like fight with this other guy. And like the whole wing like went absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
People like, you know, one guy jumped on the other one, and like there were fists going and feet flying in the air, like, and everyone was like running to get back to their rooms. And I got up to run, and I like turned around, and I saw there was one girl who had been there since I got there, and she seemed to have been there for a while. She never said a word. Whatever she was going through, it was something so deep rooted. I can't even imagine what it was. But she was stuck in the corner on the other side of this fight, and she was just in the fetal position. Like whatever trauma she experienced in her life was all coming back up, and she could not get to her room. And like that was the moment that I realized I was back, because I cut right through the fight, picked her up onto her feet, and helped her get to her room to safety. And the only word she said, as far as I'm aware, the entire time I was there, because she was completely nonverbal, was she came up to me with one of the technicians who works on the floor, and the technician, you know, told me that she wanted to say something to me, and very quietly she said thank you. And that was the only word that I think she spoke the entire time I was there. And that was like the moment where
I got chills.
yeah, it was like, it was just one of the, like, you know, if I'm rebuilding the Jenga tower, like there's the first block. It's like, who am I? I'm someone who helps. I'm someone who looks through the chaos to see who needs help, who's stuck in it. And that was really big for me. So yeah, that was probably the most valuable experience I got.
You mentioned your faith and that being a huge part of your life prior, and then kind of the disassociation with faith, and now coming back into it. You did host a men's Bible study here with Hugo and Eddie, which is a great turnout, great event. And we kind of shared a little bit. You shared a little bit of your journey in that. So how did faith make its way back into your life? Was it something that was in that facility, or was that something that was kind of drops in the facility, or was that something that kind of came kind of all back at the end?
Yeah, so I think one thing that I think is very different about how I came back to faith was like I
You were raised
hear-
Christian, right? Like,
yes, raised Christian. You know, we were like the family that we were going to church not only every Sunday, but like we would go on the Wednesday night service and the Saturday night service.
Sure.
I was raised in like a charismatic, you know, like non-denominational environment. So always very, very involved in church. Faith is very, very core to my family. My mom is still like one of the most ardent believers I know. She wakes up every morning super early and spends like at least an hour, oftentimes more, in prayer and reading the Bible. She reads the Bible multiple times a year. Like, that's the kind of faith background I come from. Very powerful. And even though I ended up landing in a very different place than my family, I still find a lot of value in that connection that we have now. But no, when I came back to faith, it was actually a few years after the mental institution. So I started to rebuild myself. I knew I couldn't be in this corporate environment. It just wasn't for me. And I knew someone else was going to love it. And I was sitting in their seat. And like not only did whoever that person was deserve to be there, but also my coworkers deserved somebody who was really excited about the opportunity and would help build with them. So
it's a beautiful way to look at it too, right? Like there's, you know, in practicing jujitsu, there's the kind of this, your opponent or the person you're training with deserves like the best of you.
yes,
Right. Like to sharpen their sword. And
exactly.
it is hard in a sense that you can't step on the gas pedal all the time and you learn how to ebb and flow with certain people, but you should still be giving some degree of notches up,
Right.
because for their betterment, right? For their improvement, they deserve that because they're stepping up and putting themselves in a situation where they're looking to improve. So
100%.
it becomes a reciprocal thing where I need to give more because this person's asking for more out of themselves, really.
Yeah, 100%. So, I had gotten I've known about Tweeds. Tweeds is a very tiny startup in the town where I was living at the time, Sarasota, Florida. And at the time when I first came to know Tweeds, there wasn't even a brick and mortar location. The company was started out of a box truck, and the whole thing was a mobile suit shop. So the inside was decorated kind of like, you know, not like this, but like, you know, upscale like this.
Yeah,
And,
sure.
I got my wedding suit with the company, and something about that experience just was so magical for me. And while I was at this corporate job, it just kind of clicked for me that like I can design all of these incredibly complex like product packages where you have all these super tight parameters and you have to like make sure everything is pixel perfect. Like, I know I can learn how to make a suit that goes on somebody. And it was just this perfect like I guess marriage of like my ambitions and my skills. And I called the owner of the company
Yet again.
yes, called him back.
Right to the top. I love it.
And I was like, you know, I want an apprenticeship. Like, I'm done with being behind a desk. I want to be out in the world, and I want to be doing something where I can run into it and take it as far as it can go. And he was like, all right, meet me for a coffee tonight. So like I finished my shift at work, meet with him for a coffee. We talk about it all. And honestly, he tried to scare me off. He was like, you know, this is a startup. Like, you know, you're going to be responsible for going out there and finding business and like learning how to do this. And I'll support you along the way. But like, ultimately, like, it's on your shoulders. And it didn't scare me at all. Like, that's exactly what I was looking for. So the next morning I put in my 2 weeks notice with my corporate job, and I just dove right in. I've not looked back since. Like, me hopping on board makes me the fifth Tweedsman, and that like we were so small at the time, and like together, like I forged friendships that I'm gonna have forever. Like I was just talking to my buddy from Tampa this morning while you were here, and like together we really built it into something special. And in my mind, like, we're still in the basement. We haven't even come out of the basement yet of where we can go with this. So
Yeah. It's amazing how you had mentioned the idea when you were younger that your brain can't make the connection to your hand to create what's in your brain. And in that arena, that may be true, right? And in that expression of it, it may be true. But then you learn who you are, what you are outside of that arena. And it's like, oh no, dude, you can create what's inside your brain. It's just a different canvas,
yeah,
right? It's a suit, or it's a aesthetic layout of a space, right? And it's like, how many people just, all of a sudden they fail on their vision or the execution of it, or it doesn't really shape out that way, and the pivot isn't ideal, or maybe the pivot's not a right away, but they don't go inward to find out what that looks like, and then they don't come out on the other side. They just end up going back into the corporate job, like, well, this is who I am. I can't do these things, but they need to kind of pivot and say, oh, and then all of a sudden, whether it be through whatever your belief system is, for me, it's God, these signs or these miracles start to align and put you in the direction of where you're supposed to be.
yeah.
So did you have any of those experiences along that journey where like, oh,
Yeah, 100%. It's funny too, because like when I was making this decision to hop out of my super stable corporate gig, I was not a believer at all at the time, but I still asked my mom to pray for me.
yeah, of
Like,
course.
I was like, "Can you like pray and see if you feel like God wants me to do this?" Like, even though I didn't really believe in it, like there's a seed like deep in my heart that still believed in it.
Of course.
And so when I came back to faith, it was a good few years into my time with the company. So we're talking like really only like 2 years ago, right? At this point. And like it was, I think, kind of unique because I think a lot of people find God in the depths, like when they're at the worst. And that was not my story. Like I've never been better in my life. Like I was starting to accomplish all these big things. Like I remember I joined Tweeds in October, right? And we had our Christmas party a couple months later, and Christmas party is a big thing for us. Like we all get together, and typically what we've done since I've hopped on board is we'll rent out a yacht on Tampa Bay, and we'll all hang out on the yacht overnight. And it's a big like rah rah thing. We're all together. We're sharing our dreams for the future and what we accomplished in the past. And I was so new. I hadn't really accomplished anything yet, but they asked me what my goal was, and it was so like so small, so humble, but to me at the time it was like the biggest mountain I could not figure out how to cross. It was just, I want to get my wife and my daughter out of my parents' house, out of the back of the back of the house, into our own space. And like the very next year, like we had this really great apartment in Tampa that like I thought we were all gonna have to squeeze into a studio. My daughter had her own room. Like
Beautiful.
that was like, that's kind of where my mindset was at. Like I was climbing up, like I had this new stability, and it was better than I thought it was going to be. We weren't squeezed into a studio altogether, which I would have been perfectly happy with. We were in a 2-bedroom that like I could easily afford, and my daughter had her own room and all her toys could fit, and she could have all this art stuff, and like I was doing better and better and better, and my book of business was growing. And there was just one night where I'm at this like this peak in my life at this point, and I'm driving home late at night from Sarasota to Tampa, which is like an hour drive, and I'm on the interstate, and like for whatever reason I'm not listening to music, which I'm always listening to music. I'm not watching or listening to a podcast or anything. Like it's just quiet in the car. I'm just driving, and I feel this like really deep, hard tug on my heart, and I can't figure out why I'm feeling this way. Like, what is this tug that I'm feeling? And this thought hit me, and it was just like, there are so many people praying for me right now. And that realization like came from completely outside of me. And like I just felt all the prayers of the people who were praying for me, for my soul, my salvation. And I just wept in the car. Tears started coming out of my eyes. And it was crazy because like I had gone out of seminary into like, I was like full on like, atheist. Like I didn't believe that there was a God at all. And like I was, I had to go home, and like my sweet wife who had been along with me this whole time, like we've been together since I was 13. So
Yeah.
she watched me go from wanting to become a pastor to being a total atheist. I had to go home and look her in the face and tell her, God's calling me back. Like, and
Buckle up, babe.
I had no idea. My heart
Yeah.
was that was like one of the scariest things I ever did. I don't know why. Something about it just terrified me. And I was like, I remember when I told her that, like, I thought she was gonna be like, really again with this? Like, you're going off, like you're going off again. But she turned to me and she said, I've been feeling the same thing. And it was like, God had been working on her as much as he had been working on me. And so I came back to faith in a very interesting time in my life where it wasn't for any other reason other than like, I believe it's true, and God is so good that he is willing to open the door and give me another chance to come back home. And I don't know why he chose me and why he let that happen. I definitely don't deserve it, but I've had way too many second chances. Like I didn't deserve the first one, but yeah. So that was when I came back to faith.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's interesting because, in being a parent, you do get these glimpses at this relationship that is beyond words, right?
Yeah.
Beyond even your capacity to express and to feel and to think. It's there's a knowing behind it that is beyond anything you can even recognize. And when you have those moments and you say, "Oh, why me?" and why like think I instantly think of my own children and like, dude, my kids can leave the house and come back at any time. Like I'll always be there for them, no matter what they've done. I remember somebody asked me like, they didn't have kids, and they asked me about like if they like, robbed a bank, right? I was like, I mean, I wouldn't hide them out, but I kind of would. Like it's like I wouldn't want to be accomplice to this said robbery, but at the same time, I'd understand. Like it's just the capacity of love, and when you expand on that to the level of God, which is inconceivable, you can't even wrap your brain about it. It's like, how many chances do I need? All of the chances. Like you get all of the chances.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's too good to be true, but that's also, for me, it's trying to put this human governor on the creator of the universe.
Yeah.
And that was such a huge, step into faith for me, was this, I'm trying to intellectualize God. I'm trying to understand something that's not understandable. Like I'm trying to conceptualize space, right? It's like your brain breaks after a certain point. And when do you
100%.
when do you just believe that space is just constantly like when do you believe the ocean is that deep? When do you believe in God? Like any of it? But like, and that's like at a micro level of like the fact that we're having this conversation, and then the macro level of like God and space and infinity and all these things. It's like, your brain can break when you sit and think about this stuff. So to me, it's like you get all the chances, like you get all of them.
Yeah. And you know what really cracks my noggin? This is a fun one for everyone at home too. Have you ever meditated on what reality was like in the very beginning when it was just void?
Yeah.
That
Of
cracks my noggin. You can sit and meditate on that for hours and just like really fall into this like space. But
my son, was it this morning? Yesterday morning, he's like, I don't know. I think sometimes this is all just a dream. I'm like, you might be right. I'm like, yeah. Because my daughter mentioned something about a dream, and my son just looked at me. He's like, sometimes I think this is all just a dream. I'm like,
yeah,
you and me both, buddy. You and me both.
Or rather, like a poem. And there's this great line from Daredevil. I don't know if you've seen Daredevil,
The new one,
the Netflix one.
Netflix season 1.
I think it's season 1 or 2, but he says like God is creating this beautiful tapestry, and everything is telling this story that's in the tapestry, and the pain of being human is that while we're here, we could only see the other side with all the muddy colors and the loose threads. But essentially, one day we'll get to see it from the other side, God's side, and it'll all make sense.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, there is this idea that the lens that we see things through is just so limited, right? And there is this untapped reality that's on the other side of existing, right outside of our faces and our noses. And when you get these little nods or these moments in the car driving, or these tugs and these heartstrings, and you could have dismissed that. You could have just been like, okay, whatever.
Eat a weird sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. It's some bad, it's an Ebenezer Scrooge moment.
Right, yeah. There's more gravy than there is grave to you.
Exactly. But to tap into that, lean into that and go, it's something else. There's something deeper here that I need to acknowledge and recognize is real.
Yeah.
Right. And you use the word magic. And I think that that's such a huge removal of our society, is that, it's one of the mantras that I've leaned into, is like, magic is real. And we've, as a society, be like, oh, magic's fake, because we see illusionists and we see David Copperfield or whatever it is. We see these guys performing magic. But that's not the magic that we're talking about here. Like, the magic that we're talking about is the beauty of a conversation, the blade of grass and on your yard, like the small nuanced things, and it's all around us at all times, at every given moment. And that's the signature of God. That's the signature of God on every single thing. And when you start to lean into that, not only do you start to understand that back of the tapestry, and you start to actually see the picture a little bit. It's very, very muddied still, but it's starting to come together.
I believe it was Paul who said, like, now we see things as through a foggy lens. And I think if there's anything that I really chased after when I first came back to the faith, because I knew I couldn't go back to the tradition I came from.
Why?
The whole reason I left seminary is because it was the first time in my life that I was really reading the Bible. I known from what I'd learned in church, but I was really reading the Bible for the first time. I'm talking, between 5 to 10 hours. I'm studying the Bible every day because I'm in seminary.
Right. That is your job.
That is my job.
Right.
And I was working only part-time at a startup, and to make up what I needed for my tuition, I was working at the church as well. And so the thing that I think, and I still love my brothers and sisters who are in that tradition, and still connected with them. Actually, one of the first things I did when I came back to faith, even though I knew I wasn't going back to that church, was I called the pastor who was running the school, because I just disappeared off the face of the earth. And I called him and I apologized. I said, I shouldn't have disappeared like that. And you were really good to me. And the first thing he did was he called me back like later that day. He's like, hey, I know you're kind of just like new to this again, but we're going on a missions trip like in 2 weeks. Do you want to come? And I was like, let's do it. So,
oh, you did, man.
Yeah. So, but I think one thing that I never really had a sense of growing up was that there's a very mystical tradition to the faith of our fathers. The fathers of the faith had this very mystical element that, like, we don't think about a lot. And I think there's this very a lot of theology has become very like two-dimensional and very like neat and tidy. And I ultimately ended up, so when I was really assessing like where I needed to go, because I knew I had to come back, but I didn't know where back was. It was the first time in my life I got to just look at as many denominations as I could, read about all of them, and where did this come from? Like where's the OG? Like how can I, like, where am I supposed to be? And for me, that I landed in the Catholic Church. And one of the great joys that I have even to this day is like going back and reading the early writings of the church fathers and like hearing how their faith was. And there's this great line that I read very recently from the Confessions of Saint Augustine, and he writes this beautiful line where he says, "Late have I loved you, oh, beauty beyond beauty or something like that. It's like, I never heard God called beauty,
Mm.
but God, like I think about God and what it really is, and it's like God is everything that is good. God is beauty. He's truth. He is righteousness. He's love, and it's impossible to wrap our minds around, but we could try. We can write really beautiful poems about it too.
Yeah, that is absolutely. And for my faith journey, I mean, I was raised Catholic,
Mm.
Catholic school, Catholic church, Catholic, and kind of started going into like I'm spiritual. I believe in the Force. I believe in the universe.
Right.
And I've told the story before, but and then I was at church. My daughter was receiving communion, and she was going to CCD, and my wife and I decided we should go back to church. And the Monsignor at our church said, "Remember, when you come up, you're receiving God who created the universe." And I was like, oh. I looked at my wife. I said, I'm going to receive. And she's like, what? I was like, I'm going to receive. And had there been someone like a security guard that was like, you can't, I would have probably like not fought him, but I would like, dude, I really need to go. Like, it was such a different feeling. And, God bless Andy, who became such a beautiful sparring partner and allowed me and gave me the arena to question my faith and wrestle with these thoughts. I mean, we started the Bible think tank, and it's really been a vehicle to sit and say like, yeah, I believe but I have these questions and these doubts, and it's okay to have these doubts. It's okay to question. It's asked of, because if you're not questioning yourself or your faith or this layer of yourself that says this isn't for me, or if you're not wrestling with these ideas of who you are and what God is and these deeper questions, you're never going to have the true internalization of it. It's just going to be checking a box. It's just going to be this, you're going to be, oh yeah, I'm Catholic, or oh yeah, I'm Christian, but there's no depth to it, or you could work at a job, but there's no soul involved. And when you step into this understanding and internalization of yourself and God, which are these parallel journeys, and entrepreneurship, which kind of adds this other layer to it, it becomes this understanding of all these components on such a inconceivable yet comprehended level.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, it's so easy for these concepts to feel familiar, but like when you think about, like, I love how it became real for you. Like when the Monsignor said that this is the creator of the universe, right? Body, blood, soul, and divinity. Like, there's such a beautiful mystery to that. The once and for all sacrifice being represented, and like if you cannot wrap your head around it, it's impossible. But when you meditate on it and really think about it, there's this great video that they showed us in the OCIA where it's like, this is kind of a picture of what's happening at the mass, and like, he's saying the words of consecration, and like the crucifixion is like floating above the altar, and there's all like heaven and its angels, and it's like, it's impossible to wrap your head around, but it's mystical, and
Yeah.
like, it is the great tradition of our faith that though we only see the one side of the tapestry, we can squint our eyes and look for a really long time, and maybe we start to see the colors run together as they should.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if you're like a big fan of the Rosary. I am a huge fan of the Rosary. I think it's just incredible, the gospel on beads, as they call it. And again, it just goes the same thing. All these concepts, the mysteries that you meditate on, they seem simple on the face of it, right? Like, we've all heard of the nativity. We see the plastic nativities put up every year around Christmas, and it's a nice thing. And we have this like image in our mind, and an understanding in our mind that our synapses just snap to. It's like, oh, that's what it is. But when you really sit there and you meditate on it and you try and put yourself in that scene, it takes on flesh in a whole new way. And there's you can spend a lifetime just trying to wrap your head around that one scene. And we're just so blessed that with the Rosary we get
Right.
all these different mysteries to think about too. You can never delve deep enough into them.
Yeah, and the acknowledgement of that, and it's said in the in the Eucharist service is the mystery of faith, right? Like the
Yes.
mystery of like
If you have a really good priest, they'll sing it in a really cool way.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. But there's an acknowledgement to that, which I think is, I think that's important to notice in your faith. That like that is faith living, right? That is faith alive, is the component of the mystery, and leaning as much as you can lean into the mystery. And whether you want to call the mystery the unknown, you want to call it the ether, whatever it is, there is, and we all feel it to some degree,
Yeah.
but there is this unknown that is constantly unfolding, that when you can ground it, for me, when you can ground it with a foundation of faith in this as the center pillar, everything else kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
It all kind of does bring the tapestries to some kind of picture. I don't know the exact lines of the picture, but I can kind of start to see it, and not only really see it, but feel it.
Yeah.
And that's what comes through, is the feeling behind the tapestry, not the image itself, but the direction and the feeling of the colors and the energy that's around it that really makes it so beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I got nothing to say. That's beautiful. I love that. Nothing to add to that.
I do want
notes.
to. Perfect. I do want to talk about Tweeds in the sense that with the client experience, obviously you're a very passionate guy. You bring your love of style and art all together. What does that experience mean to you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, a good chunk of it is like the experience that I had when I came as a customer. Like, I'd never, like, for one, it's like, you walk in and it's like, there's very few times, I think, in a man's life where like you get to do something like this, right? Like, and I talk about it with weddings all the time. Like the wedding, like the wife is the star in the center of the wedding, and as it should be. And there's all these things like the cake and the decorations and the dress, and like you want to give your wife everything that she's been dreaming about for her whole life since she was a kid. But the suit is the one thing where the husband gets to like be the star of the show and be the center of attention. And like so when I love weddings, I have all kinds of clients, but weddings are one of my favorites because it's like I get to be this like tiny part of this incredible, beautiful thing. And I try to reflect that on every client who comes in. Like, maybe the guy who's getting the suit just for every day at work, it's not like the biggest thing in his life. It's not like getting married, but I want there to be a reflection of that experience where it's like you walk in and the client gets elevated and put on this pedestal, and we get to focus on you. And I want to know your story. I want to know what you love. I want to know how you want to portray yourself, what you think of yourself, so that what we make for you is going to reflect that. And that's like the great joy of my job. Even a lot of the more corporate guys who are coming in just for their work wardrobe, like it can seem very simple, like turning out another navy suit because every guy needs a navy suit, or another charcoal gray suit. But and sometimes it is just that simple, and we just make it a good time. Like, how can I serve you? The best way to serve you is by making a great version of the navy, the best navy suit that human hands can possibly make. We'll make that one so that you look great, and you can take on everything that your daily life has in store for you. But sometimes we get to have some fun, and like, we want to reflect a little bit more personality, a little bit more touch. And I always try to add some kind of personal touch, no matter where I can. Like, whether it's just putting something that means something to you on the inside of the liner, or something that is just makes you excited. Like, no one's going to see what's on the inside unless you want to show them. So, let's have some fun there, or like, let's put a little message to yourself. Like, maybe it's just something that motivates you to get through the day, and we'll embroider it in the back of the collar. So, you always have this message with you when things get tough at work. Like, that's the great joy of my job.
I love that. I as you know, do jiu-jitsu, as we talked about, but inside the gi of Igor Gracie, the first, like the white belt gi that you get on, whatever, it says a black belt is a white belt that never quit.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
that
man,
simple.
That's so good.
It's that simple, right? And
It's so good.
and it's small, but like sometimes you're rolling and you see that in someone else's gear, you're like, okay, just don't quit. Like, and
Exactly.
it does. There's a message there that you could take with you throughout the day, and I think adding that fine touch and that detail adds so much value to even in the simplest subtle ways. That obviously resonates with so many people. So
Yeah, it doesn't
I
always have to be deep. Like
No.
it's just like we'll have a great time, and like every time you throw on the suit, like you'll feel good and you'll feel ready to tackle the day.
Dude, I love that. If people wanted to connect with you, if they want to come and get a suit, where can they find out more of what you're doing? You're also doing a lot more stuff here, which I think that
Yes.
if you're in the area, you should definitely come check out the space. It does have such a great, such a great vibe and energy to it that you cannot deny. So, where can people find out more about what you're doing?
Yeah, thank you for that. So one of the places I'm most active is Instagram. It's Seth, Seth with Tweeds. I'm posting all the events that we have going on there. I put a lot of different client looks, so I try to get my clients into making my models as much as I can.
Sure.
So, lots of great examples of my work, lots of great content, and all the things that we have going on here. We are doing a lot of events here and some really cool ones coming up that I'm very excited for. And then outside of that, like if you go to my Instagram, the link to our website is there, tweedssuitshop.com/rye-ny. That link is in my bio. You could schedule an appointment there, or if you just want to call and chat, you could DM me on Instagram, or my phone number's on Instagram too, 941-387-6776. Everyone has it. I'm not afraid to say it on the show.
It's already out there.
It's
Dude,
been out there.
thank you so much for sharing, for opening up, sharing a bit. I feel like we could have gone on for we had still to talk about the book. So we'll have to do this again. Maybe you'll come down to Agora and we'll do another one relatively soon. So
I'd love to see your space. Let's do it.
I appreciate it. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.